President Biden ordered retaliatory airstrikes against Iran-backed terrorists after they injured 3 American soldiers in northern Iraq. The airstrikes come as conflict in the Middle East continues to escalate, and U.S. officials have yet to rule out additional use of force. White House officials said President Biden made the decision while spending Christmas with family at Camp David, but he has since returned to the White House. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in a statement that while the U.S. does not seek to escalate conflict, we are fully committed and fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities. Turning to the rest of the world now with my friend and colleague, The Hill's foreign policy reporter Laura Kelly. Laura, what's Washington's reaction to President Biden's authorizing the use of airstrikes in Iraq?
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I believe that people who are more critical of President Biden's approach to the Middle East in general and Iran in particular, they may not have the most congratulations for President Biden taking this strike against these foes, but they will be encouraging probably more tough action. Whereas President Biden's allies in Congress, who are pushing for diplomacy with Iran where it's possible because of fear over its nuclear program, will worry that this kind of action by the U.S. might raise tensions in the region in a way that could develop into a larger conflict.
So put simply, that's what's happening in Iraq, but why should Americans care about the Iran-backed Houthi rebels attacking vessels in the Red Sea?
This is a major area of commerce, of transportation, and if it's not safe for vessels to transit through there, our whole supply system can get disrupted.
And so, meanwhile, here in Washington, Israeli Foreign Minister Ron Dermer, he's meeting with officials. What's he going to be doing?
There's probably a lot to talk about between U.S. officials and Israeli officials. They're still trying to work to get these negotiations to release hostages from Hamas. Israel and the U.S. are in deep conversations with Qatar to try and get Hamas to come into some agreement in releasing more hostages. There's about 129 that are still in Hamas captivity. But it's also about how Israel is continuing to prosecute its war against Hamas with a really unbelievable death toll in the Gaza Strip, somewhere around 20,000, although it's difficult to verify those numbers. And then there's the concern about this conflict expanding into a wider war in the region. There's always attacks happening across the border between Hezbollah and Lebanon and Israel. And then these concerns about attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East and where Iran is in supporting its proxy groups.
I want to ask you about the Ukraine funding fight happening in Washington when they return in the next couple of weeks. You've traveled to Ukraine on the ground, reporting on the war there. What impact is the funding going to have should it reach President Zelensky of Ukraine?
There's both a political signal and a practical implication to this funding actually being delivered. The political signal is that the U.S. is standing with Ukraine, and I received messages over Christmas. This was the first time that Ukrainians held Christmas on December 25th as they tried to separate themselves more from Russia and the Russian Orthodox Church, which is such a powerful political figure in Russia. And so I received messages of Merry Christmas from Ukrainians in Ukraine, and I said, what do you want to see from the U.S.? And they really want to see this package come through, if only to show that America still supports Ukraine. And then practically, Ukrainian President Zelensky is looking for more war materials. He needs more air defenses to protect against Russian attacks on Ukrainian critical infrastructure and for Ukraine to take the fight to Russia. There were reports that Ukraine had demolished or destroyed a Russian ship in the Black Sea in a Crimean port. And these are some of the kind of attacks that Ukraine wants to do more of because it hasn't succeeded in gaining a lot back of its territory in this summer counteroffensive.